Everyone talks about the Bermuda Triangle. Ships disappear, planes vanish, radio signals cut out. But what if the mystery was never above the water? What if the mystery was always below? In December 2025, scientists discovered something beneath Bermuda that challenges everything we know about how Earth works. A 20-kilometer thick rock layer, floating, supporting, defying gravity, and no one knows why it's there. The question isn't, why do ships disappear? The question is, what's creating the conditions that make them disappear? Hi, I'm the digital avatar of VoidCast, and today,
let me take you back 400 years. 1609. A Spanish ship called the San Cristobal sails into a stretch of ocean between Miami, Bermuda, and Puerto Rico. The crew is experienced. The weather is clear. The route is familiar. Then it vanishes. Not a trace. Not a single body washes ashore. For 400 years, this pattern repeats. 1918, the USS Cyclops, a U.S. Navy ship, 309 men aboard, larger than the Titanic. It enters the triangle on a clear day and simply disappears. The Navy searches. They search for weeks. They find nothing. No wreckage, no distress call, no survivors. 309 men gone without a single word. 1919, Flight 19. 5 Navy bombers on a routine training mission. 14 trained pilots. The weather is perfect. The mission is routine. But then, the radio crackles. The lead pilot's voice. We are unable to locate land. We are unable to locate anything. Then, silence. All 5 planes, all 14 men, never found. Not a single piece confirmed as wreckage. 1963, the SS Marine Sulphur Queen, a cargo ship carrying 39 crew members. The ship doesn't gradually sink. It doesn't send a distress call. The wreckage that's later found shows the vessel was literally torn apart from the inside, as if something pushed from below with tremendous force. The crew had no time to escape. Since 1609, this pattern continues. Hundreds of ships, hundreds of planes, thousands of people. So many disappearances that newspapers started calling it the graveyard of the Atlantic. And here's the thing that bothers people most. These aren't stories from folklore. These aren't legends. These are documented cases, official military records, naval archives, insurance claims, families, real people, real deaths. Scientists tried to dismiss it. They said the Bermuda Triangle is statistically no more dangerous than any other stretch of ocean. They blamed methane eruptions from the seafloor, magnetic anomalies, human error, bad weather, mechanical failure. But if you actually research the cases, if you look at the evidence, you realize something is wrong with those explanations. Because Flight 19 disappeared in perfect weather. The USS Cyclops disappeared without a distress call. The Marine Sulphur Queen was torn apart as if by invisible hands. These weren't normal accidents. Something about this 500,000 square mile stretch of ocean was fundamentally different from everywhere else. And for 400 years, we had no answer. Until December 2025.
In December 2025, a research paper was published in Geophysical Research Letters. The lead authors, William Fraser from Carnegie Science in Washington, D.C., and Jeffrey Park from Yale University. And here's what they did. They gathered seismic data from 396 powerful earthquakes that happened thousands of miles away, in Japan, in Chile, in Fiji, in the South Pacific, all over the world. When December 2025, when an earthquake ruptures the Earth's crust thousands of miles away, it doesn't just affect that local region. The energy travels through the entire planet. It passes through rock layers that have never been directly observed. It creates waves that can tell us what's down there. Fraser and Park placed a seismic recording station on Bermuda, and they waited. When those 396 earthquakes happened, The station caught their echoes, their vibrations, their signatures in the rock below Bermuda. Using a technique called seismic tomography, essentially X-raying the Earth from the inside out, they created a three-dimensional map of everything 50 kilometers beneath Bermuda, 50 kilometers deep. And what they saw in that map changed everything. And its existence is impossible. This layer is 20 kilometers thick. Let me give you perspective on what 20 kilometers means. Mount Everest is 8.85 kilometers tall. That's the highest point on Earth, the top of the world. The place that's so high that people literally cannot breathe without oxygen. This rock layer is more than twice as thick as Mount Everest is tall. If you stacked Mount Everest on top of itself, you still wouldn't reach the bottom of this layer. But here's what makes it truly impossible. This rock is less dense than the mantle rock surrounding it. Less dense means lighter. Lighter means it floats. Bermuda is being held up by a raft, a massive 20-kilometer thick raft of floating rock. And nobody has any idea why it's there. Here's how volcanic islands normally form. A plume of hot rock rises from deep inside the Earth's mantle. This plume is like a blowtorch. It pushes up through the crust. It creates volcanic activity. It builds islands. As long as that plume keeps rising, the island is supported. The island floats above the ocean. But plumes don't last forever. Eventually, they cool. They weaken. The plume dies. When the plume dies, the island loses its support system. The rock cools. It becomes denser. Gravity pulls it down. Slowly, over millions of years, the island subsides. It sinks back into the ocean. This is happening right now. All over the world, Hawaii is sinking. Every year, the Hawaiian Islands drop slightly deeper into the Pacific Ocean. Iceland is sinking. The volcanic plateau that emerged from the Atlantic is gradually subsiding. The Azores are sinking. Yellowstone is sinking. Everywhere you look, volcanic islands follow the same pattern. Birth, rise, cooling, sinking, death. Every island returns to the ocean eventually. That's the rule. That's how geology works. Bermuda should have sunk 31 million years ago. But it didn't. Bermuda remained elevated. It stayed above the ocean. The island didn't sink, and geologists had no explanation. They couldn't figure out why. There was no known mechanism, no geological process that could keep an unsupported island floating for 31 million years. So Bermuda became a mystery within a mystery. Scientists had one unsolved question. Why do ships and planes disappear in the Bermuda Triangle? And they had another unsolved question. How is Bermuda even here? Here's what we know about the Bermuda Triangle. It's not a random location on the map. The Bermuda Triangle is positioned directly above Bermuda, right over this floating rock layer, right on top of the geological anomaly that shouldn't exist. Ships that disappear in the triangle are sailing above this layer. Planes that vanish are flying over it. People report their instruments going haywire in these waters. Compasses spinning wildly. Radios cutting to static, navigation systems failing. Instruments that have worked reliably for decades suddenly become unreliable. Let's think about what happens when you have a floating layer of rock. First, it's not stationary. A floating object doesn't stay still. It moves, it shifts. It creates stress and pressure on the rock around it. It creates strain on the tectonic plate. Think of a block of wood floating in water. It bobs up and down. It rocks back and forth. It disturbs the water around it. It causes currents. It causes waves. Now imagine that block is 20 kilometers thick and stretches for hundreds of miles. The pressure it creates would be enormous. The stress it puts on the surrounding rock would be immense. Second, this floating layer is creating an oceanic swell. The ocean floor above Bermuda is elevated about 500 meters higher than the surrounding seafloor. That's not a small bump. That's a significant rise. Ocean water is heavy, really heavy. Water wants to be level. When you have an elevated stretch of ocean floor, there's constant pressure, constant stress. The water is being held up unnaturally. Here's what we know for certain. 1. This floating rock layer exists. That's confirmed. 2. It's creating stress on the surrounding rock. A floating object always creates pressure. That's physics. 3. It's creating an elevated oceanic swell. That's confirmed. The ocean floor above it is 500 meters higher than the surrounding area. 4. Ships and planes disappear directly above this layer. That's documented. 5. People report instrument failures directly above this layer. That's well documented in the historical record. 6. Nobody fully understands what the layer is made of or how it behaves. Scientists have admitted this. When you put those facts together, you get one conclusion. In December 2025, we don't know if the floating rock layer is causing the Bermuda Triangle disappearances, but we also don't know that it isn't. In fact, several independent researchers and analysts have already started looking at the data, looking at the geology, looking at the historical disappearances, and they're finding some interesting correlations. For example, every major disappearance in the Bermuda Triangle happened directly above the area where this floating rock layer is most active, most unstable. Is that a coincidence? Maybe. Or maybe it's a clue. So here's where we stand. Scientists have confirmed that a 20-kilometer thick floating rock layer exists beneath Bermuda. They've confirmed it's unique on Earth. They've confirmed that Bermuda would be underwater without it. They've confirmed that they don't fully understand what it is or how it works. And they've confirmed, through their silence, that they're not ready to connect it to the Bermuda Triangle mystery. What do you think? Is this floating rock layer connected to the Bermuda Triangle disappearances? Or is it just an interesting geological oddity that has nothing to do with the ships and planes? Drop your theories in the comments. I read every single one, and the best ones get pinned, because we might finally be on the verge of solving a 400-year-old mystery. If you want more mysterious cases that defy explanation, click the video on the screen. New investigation every week. And if you want to be the first to know when we uncover more about this discovery, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Because the Bermuda Triangle secret is finally coming to light. And it's darker than anyone realized.